The world's deadliest tennis court. Tennis is known for being a pretty benign sport, but in 2005, Dubai built the Burj Al Arab tennis court, and soon after its construction, it went viral across the internet. Now, the tennis court was built in order to raise the profile of the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships. Built atop a 210-meter-high helipad for a one-off game, the court hosted the world-famous tennis player Roger Federer and Andre Agassi. Made by topping the helipad with artificial grass, it had absolutely no barriers or fences to prevent the two players from falling off the edge, making the match an extremely dangerous affair. However, despite the crazy heights, both of the players made it out okay. As a result, most have considered this crazy high stunt to be a spectacular success, as the publicity that the match created helped make the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships an extremely successful and high-profile tournament. Number 14. Mestalla Stadium. Valencia is one of Spain's most beloved clubs, and while it's relatively safe to watch a match at the team's Mestalla Stadium if you are supporting the home squad, the same can't be said for visitors. That's because Mestalla Stadium sits all of its visitors in its north stand, which is not only 152 stairs high, but it's reportedly extremely steep. In fact, the total of 19 flights of stairs to get there is so taxing that people with breathing difficulties are discouraged from attending, and after a few pints of beer, the chance of injury while trying to traverse the steps is extremely high. So if you decide to support your home team on the road and find yourself at Mestalla Stadium, we highly suggest not getting too intoxicated while enjoying the match. Number 13. The Daytona International Speedway. While the Daytona International Speedway may be NASCAR's most famous track, it's also one of the most dangerous. Located in Daytona Beach, Florida, it's the host of the Daytona 500, and its world-renowned 4-kilometer track is infamous for its high mortality rate. More specifically, the track has claimed the lives of 28 people since its inception, and the reason behind this is due to its dangerous design. That's because the speedway is banked at 18 degrees at the start line straight and 31 degrees on the corners, and this has caused many cars to fly, slip, or otherwise crash in hard ways if they get too close. As a result, the Daytona International Speedway is one of the deadliest race courses in the world. Number 12. The Horford Stadium. Generally speaking, cheering fans help brighten up any stadium, but at the Horford Stadium, the maintenance was so poor that cheering fans managed to destroy one of the stands. It seems on October 17th of 2021, the Dutch teams NEC Nijmegen and Vitesse Arnhem were facing off in Horford Stadium. In the 16th minute, Baden Fredriksson scored a goal, causing the Vitesse fans to jump up and down in celebration. However, as they did so, their concrete visitor stand collapsed underneath them, souring the celebrations in the process. And while no one was hurt during the incident, we'd say that this collapse is a sign that the 82-year-old Horford Stadium is in need of some major structural repairs. Number 11. The Metrodome. Generally speaking, just one roof collapse would be enough for officials to either make major repairs to a stadium or completely tear it down. But in the case of the Metrodome, officials let a roof collapse slide 5 times before doing anything about it. Built to house the Minnesota Vikings, the Metrodome's roof collapsed for the first time in 1981, which for the record was before the stadium was even open. The roof then collapsed a second time in 1982, a third time in 1983, and a fourth time in 1986, and then a final time in 2010. The reason behind these repeated incidents lies in the roof's material, as it was a fiberglass blow-up roof that could easily deflate if faced with bad weather such as rainstorms or blizzards. Therefore, the roof was finally replaced with a more dependable retractable roof in 2010, although due to its age, the stadium was ultimately torn down in 2014. Number 10. CenturyLink Field. We all know that stats don't lie, and when it comes to injury statistics, CenturyLink Field is known to be pretty brutal. That's because according to research conducted by graduate assistant Aaron Sajdil of the University of Oklahoma and epidemiologist Zachary Binney, the stadium is known to produce the most injuries in the entirety of the NFL. Home to the Seattle Seahawks, the research seems to suggest that its play surface is to blame. More specifically, the research found that it's one of the few NFL stadiums that uses synthetic turf, and that turf leads to more injuries than it does for teams that play on grass surfaces. Supposedly, these fields are extremely susceptible to non-contact lower limb injuries, and the only injuries that don't seem to get worse with synthetic turf are those that occur during punts. Therefore, unless Seattle wants to suffer a disproportionately high number of injuries, it would probably be best that they invest in changing their turf to some nice fresh grass. Number 9. The Bonsai Pipeline. Sometimes the natural world can be extremely dangerous, and when it comes to spectacular outdoor sports venues, none beat the Bonsai Pipeline. Located on the north shore of the Hawaiian island of Oahu, the Bonsai Pipeline is famous for its massive waves, which occur thanks to the fact that it's located ahead of a sharp and cavernous reef, which causes the waves to break into massive bursts. This leads to waves that average in at 3 meters in height, but that can potentially reach heights of over 6 meters, and this has led to the Bonsai Pipeline being both famous and infamous. After all, while the Bonsai Pipeline is famous for being the host for the annual Billabong Pipeline Masters Tournament, it's also been the graveyard of many surfers, as the Bonsai Pipeline has claimed the lives of 7 surfers and injured countless others. So while this natural arena may be an awesome hotspot, I wouldn't suggest surfing here if you're still a beginner. Number 8. The Isle of Man TT Mountain Circuit. Motorcycle racing is far from a safe sport, as the complete lack of airbags and external protection means that crashes can often be fatal. However, when it comes to motorcycle mortalities, few places are as infamous as the Isle of Man TT Mountain Circuit. Located on the British Isle of Man, it's famous for hosting the Isle of Man Tourist Trophy, which is an annual race that's been held on the island ever since 1907. In total, the course is about 60 kilometers long and stands apart due to the fact that it's been the site of no less than 260 fatalities. This is due to the fact that racing on this course demands perfection, as the course is not only mountainous, but it's also extremely narrow, has virtually no runoff areas, and is prone to inclement weather. So if you ever do get the chance to visit the Isle of Man, we suggest staying far away from this crazy outdoor motorcycle course. 5. The world's most dangerous golf hole. While this is technically not a stadium, we feel like this golf hole deserves an honorable mention due to how crazy it is. Nestled within the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea, this 192-yard par 3 is located near Camp Boniface. Named after American soldier Arthur Boniface, who was bludgeoned to death with pick handles, knives, clubs, and axes by North Korean troops in 1976, the hole serves as a fun diversion for American and South Korean soldiers stationed there. Reportedly, the tee block sits 50 feet above the fairway in a converted machine gun nest, with both the block and hole being made used as artificial turf. Now, while this hole's precarious position makes it extremely dangerous, what makes it even worse is its surroundings. That's because unlike most holes, we highly suggest not looking for your ball if you miss the fairway or slice, as the hole is completely surrounded by a triangle of landmines. To top this off, the hole is reportedly really difficult, as strong wind gusts that constantly come from the North Korean side make it extremely difficult to hit a good shot. So unless you can shoot the ball relatively straight, I wouldn't suggest teeing off at this horribly dangerous hole. Number 4. Estadio Hernando Siles. Generally speaking, most soccer stadiums are said to be dangerous because of their crazy fans and atmosphere. However, the fans at Estadio Hernando Siles are quite nice, and the stadium is also relatively well built. Yet despite all this, the stadium is said to be really dangerous, and the reason for this is due to its incredible altitude. Sitting at over 3,600 meters above sea level in Bolivia's capital of La Paz, it's considered to be one of the highest soccer stadiums in the world. Now, while the home players are used to playing in these low oxygen conditions, visiting players often struggle. For example, in 2013, Argentina played the much lower-ranked Bolivia, yet despite Argentina being far better in terms of talent, the match ended in a 1-1 draw. This was largely because star players like Lionel Messi reportedly vomited while fellow star Angel Di Maria had to be given oxygen, with Messi later going on to say that many of the players felt dizzy and unwell while playing. As such, many players dread having to go against Bolivia at Estadio Hernando Siles, and so I'd say that if you ever get a chance to watch a Bolivian international soccer game at the stadium, I certainly wouldn't bet against the home team. Number 3. Hillsborough Stadium. Of all the stadiums out there, few were quite as dangerous as Hillsborough Stadium. Home to Sheffield Wednesday, it was known for dangerous incidents throughout the 1980s. After all, due to the stadium often being overcrowded, crushes would often occur, with a 1981 incident leading to 38 injuries. And even during relatively safe matches, visiting fans would often report being packed in so tightly that they couldn't move their hands or legs. Yet despite these complaints, little was done to improve the conditions at the stadium, and this reached a tragic head in a match between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest on April 15th of 1989. More specifically, the Liverpool fans were set to be all seated in one part of the stadium, but at the turnstiles, a massive pileup of fans began to occur. In order to relieve this pressure, the authorities decided to open up several extra gates as entry points, and soon thousands of fans began to pour into the stadium. This began to become problematic in pens 3 and 4, and eventually a surge in pen 3 caused one of its metal crush barriers to give way. This led to even more barriers breaking way, and soon fans were beginning to break the fences so they could jump onto the soccer field and escape the crush. In total, 97 deaths and 766 injuries were reported, making this the deadliest sporting disaster in British history. In response, all of the standing areas of the stadium were replaced by seated terraces, and ever since, Hillsborough has been a far safer stadium. Number 2. Nürburgring Nordschleife. F1 is considered to be an extremely dangerous sport, as just one wrong move can make your car become a flaming pile of rubber and metal. However, as far as racing tracks go, Nürburgring Nordschleife is known for being especially risky. Located in the German city of Nuremberg, this 20.4-kilometer track has no less than 73 corners, which is crazy considering the fact that most tracks, while generally smaller, have between 10 and 20 corners. Yet the main challenge lies in 3 main complicating factors: its elevation changes, blind corners, and lack of runoff areas. In terms of elevation, the difference between the track's lowest and highest point is a massive 300 meters. And since most of the incline occurs on steep bursts rather than along gradual hills, it's difficult to navigate for those who aren't used to uphill racing. The track's blind corners are also a problem, as they're both difficult to see and very tight, making it easy to crash while trying to conquer them. Yet perhaps the biggest issue surrounding the track is the almost complete absence of runoff areas, since for most of the course there's less than a meter separating the track from the barriers. This means that there's almost no room for error, as one wrong turn won't lead to a grassy field, but to a hard barrier that can crush your car to smithereens. So it should come as no surprise that more than 70 racers have tragically lost their lives on this hellishly difficult course. Yet what's even crazier is that despite the difficulty level and high mortality rate, for just 24 euros, any average Joe off the street can take a lap around the course. However, if you value your life and your limbs, I would not suggest going for a leisurely drive here. Number 1. Veterans Stadium. Everyone knows that Americans love their football, but the fans at Veterans Stadium, which was home to the Philadelphia Eagles, often took things a bit too far. That's because Eagles fans are known for being extremely aggressive, and at Veterans Stadium, which was their home between the years 1971 and 2003, violent incidents seemed to occur on a constant basis. Eagles fans first began really getting a bad rap in 1968, when an innocent Santa Claus was pelted with snowballs and booze during halftime. Things only got worse from there, and in 1986 the team tried to curb the violence by prohibiting the sale of beer after halftime and requesting that the NFL not schedule 4 p.m. games at their stadium against rivals, in the hopes that alcohol consumption would decrease. Unfortunately, these measures didn't seem to work, and in 1989 there was an incident where visiting fans, players, and television crews were pelted with snowballs, with this making national headlines. So in order to address all of this misconduct, the decision was eventually made to build a courtroom in order to process disorderly fans. Known as the Eagles Court, it was staffed by Justice Seamus McCaffrey, who would go on to become a Pennsylvania Supreme Court judge. Those who would be sent in were generally caught in the act, and as such, Justice McCaffrey would often offer them the chance to make a guilty plea that led to a fine of somewhere between $150 to $300, and at times community service. While all of this helped restore a bit of order, its decaying environment and lax security practically invited misbehavior. And so in 2003, the new Lincoln Financial Stadium was built as a replacement. And while Lincoln Financial isn't really all that safe, after all, its fans are known for chucking beer bottles, stones, and batteries, it's still far safer off than the old Veterans Stadium. Watch our binge-watching playlist if you'd like to watch all of our most popular top 15 videos. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready to binge.